The universe stretches out before us in every direction we look. When we gaze up at the night sky, we see thousands of stars scattered across the darkness like grains of sand on an endless beach. Each one of those distant points of light is a sun, much like our own, burning steadily in the vast expanse of space. And around many of those stars we now know there are planets, worlds of rock and gas, ice and metal, spinning silently through the cosmic void. For as long as humans have looked up at the stars, we have wondered if we are alone. It is perhaps the most profound question our species has ever asked. Are we the only living things in all of this immensity, or is life common, scattered throughout the galaxy like seeds carried on an interstellar wind? The answer to this question shapes how we see ourselves, how we understand our place in the cosmos, and what we imagine the future might hold. Today we are going to explore this question together, slowly and carefully, examining what we know and what we can reasonably guess about life beyond Earth. We will look at the numbers, the possibilities, and the strange silences that have puzzled scientists for generations. And as we move through this exploration, you might find that the answer is neither simple nor comforting. In fact, the more deeply we look into this question, the more unsettling the possibilities become. But we will take our time. There is no need to rush. The universe has been here for billions of years, and it will continue long after we are gone. So settle in, relax, and let us think about this together in a calm and thoughtful way. Let us begin with what we know for certain. Our planet Earth is home to life. This might seem obvious, but it is worth pausing to appreciate just how remarkable this fact is. Life exists here in astonishing abundance and diversity. From the deepest ocean trenches to the highest mountain peaks, from frozen polar ice to scorching desert sands, living organisms have found ways to survive and thrive. Bacteria live in boiling hot springs and frozen Antarctic lakes. Plants grow in the most unlikely places. Animals have adapted to nearly every environment our planet offers. Life on Earth is incredibly resilient and adaptable. It has survived 5 major mass extinction events, each one wiping out the majority of species that existed at the time. And yet, life persisted. It recovered. It evolved into new forms. Today, millions of species share this planet with us, each one a unique solution to the puzzle of survival. This abundance of life on Earth tells us something important. It tells us that once life gets started, it can be remarkably persistent. The chemistry of life, based on carbon and water, seems to be quite robust. Living things can adapt to extreme conditions. They can survive in places that seem utterly hostile to us. This adaptability suggests that life might not be as fragile as we once thought. Now let us think about our planet itself. Earth is a rocky world, about 12,000 kilometers across, orbiting a medium-sized yellow star at just the right distance to keep water liquid on its surface. This distance, neither too close nor too far from the Sun, is what scientists call the habitable zone. Too close and any water would boil away into space. Too far and it would freeze into permanent ice. But Earth sits in that comfortable middle range where oceans can exist, where rain can fall, where rivers can flow. Water is essential for life as we know it. Every living thing on Earth needs water to survive. Water is an excellent solvent, meaning it can dissolve many different substances, allowing complex chemical reactions to take place. It remains liquid across a wide range of temperatures. It has unique properties that make it ideal for the chemistry of life. So when we search for life beyond Earth, we often start by looking for water. Our Sun is just one star among hundreds of billions in our galaxy, the Milky Way. And our galaxy is just one among hundreds of billions of galaxies in the observable universe. When we multiply these numbers together, we arrive at a figure that is almost impossible to truly comprehend. There may be more stars in the universe than grains of sand on all the beaches of Earth. And around many of those stars there are planets. We have learned this relatively recently, in just the last few decades. Before the 1990s, we knew of no planets beyond our own solar system. We suspected they existed, but we had no proof. Then, in 1992, astronomers discovered the first confirmed planets orbiting a star other than our Sun. Since then, we have found thousands more. We now know that planets are common, perhaps even more common than stars. Nearly every star in the night sky likely has at least one planet orbiting it. This discovery changed everything. It meant that the raw materials for life, the places where life could potentially exist, are abundant throughout the universe. Rocky planets in habitable zones, worlds where liquid water could exist, are scattered throughout our galaxy. Some estimates suggest there could be billions of Earth-like planets in the Milky Way alone. So here is where we begin to see the puzzle. We have a universe filled with stars and planets. We have abundant evidence that life can arise and persist once it gets started. We have good reason to believe that the conditions necessary for life are common, and yet we see no clear evidence of life anywhere except on our own small world. No radio signals from alien civilizations, no giant structures in space, no visitors, nothing but silence. This puzzle has a name. Scientists call it the Fermi Paradox, named after the physicist Enrico Fermi, who famously asked, "Where is everybody?" During a casual conversation in 1950, Fermi and his colleagues were discussing the possibility of alien life and interstellar travel. Given the age and size of the universe, Fermi reasoned, even if intelligent life were rare, there should have been plenty of time for at least one civilization to spread across the galaxy. So where were they? Why had we seen no evidence of their existence? This paradox has puzzled scientists ever since. On one hand, we have all the reasons to expect life should be common. On the other hand, we have a universe that appears empty and silent. This gap between expectation and observation is what makes the question of alien life so fascinating and, as we will explore, somewhat troubling. To understand this puzzle more deeply, we need to think about what it takes for intelligent life to arise. It is not enough for life to simply exist. Bacteria and simple organisms might be common throughout the universe, but they would not build radio telescopes or send signals across space. For us to detect alien life, or for alien life to detect us, there needs to be intelligence, technology, civilization. So let us trace the path from a lifeless planet to a technological civilization, thinking about each step along the way and asking ourselves how likely or unlikely each step might be. First, a planet must form in the habitable zone of its star. We now know this is quite common. Many stars have rocky planets at the right distance for liquid water. So far, this step seems relatively easy. The universe appears to be full of potentially habitable worlds. Second, life must somehow begin on that planet. This is where things become uncertain. We do not fully understand how life started on Earth. We know it happened relatively quickly in geological terms. Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago. The oldest evidence of life dates back nearly 4 billion years. So within the first billion years of Earth's existence, life appeared. This quick emergence of life on Earth might suggest that the origin of life is relatively easy, given the right conditions. If life arose quickly here, perhaps it arises quickly elsewhere too. Or it might mean we were simply lucky. Perhaps Earth had some special combination of conditions that made the origin of life more likely. Without more examples to study, we cannot be sure. The chemistry of life's origin involves simple molecules combining into more complex ones. Amino acids joining to form proteins, nucleotides linking together to form DNA and RNA. Somehow, somewhere, chemistry became biology. Molecules began to replicate themselves, to make copies, and those copies were not always perfect. Small errors in copying led to variation. Variation led to competition. Competition led to evolution. This transition from chemistry to biology is one of the great mysteries of science. We can imagine how it might have happened. We can even demonstrate some of the key steps in laboratory experiments, but we have not yet created life from non-living materials. We do not know if the origin of life requires very special conditions or if it happens easily whenever the basic requirements are met. Assuming life does begin, the next step is for that life to persist and evolve. On Earth, life has been remarkably stable for billions of years. Yes, there have been extinction events, dramatic climate changes, and all manner of challenges, but life itself has never been completely wiped out. Once established, it seems to be quite difficult to eliminate entirely. Simple life, single-celled organisms, dominated Earth for billions of years. For most of our planet's history, the most complex life forms were bacteria and similar microorganisms. They were successful, spreading to every available habitat, adapting to every condition. But they remained simple. They did not build civilizations or develop technology. Then, about 2 billion years ago, something remarkable happened. Simple cells began to cooperate with one another, eventually evolving into complex cells with internal structures. These eukaryotic cells, as they are called, became the building blocks of all complex life. Every plant, every animal, every fungus is made of these more sophisticated cells. This transition from simple to complex cells appears to have happened only once in Earth's history. All complex life shares a common ancestor. This might suggest that the step from simple to complex life is actually quite difficult, perhaps even rare. If it were easy, we might expect it to have happened many times independently. But it happened once, and from that single event, all the complexity of life on Earth eventually arose. Another billion years passed. Complex cells existed, but life remained mostly microscopic. Then, about 600 million years ago, larger organisms began to appear. Multicellular life emerged. Animals evolved. Plants colonized the land. The pace of evolution seemed to accelerate. Why did it take so long for complex multicellular life to arise? We are not entirely sure. Perhaps certain environmental conditions needed to be in place. Perhaps oxygen needed to build up in the atmosphere to sufficient levels. Perhaps it required very specific circumstances that took billions of years to develop. Each of these major transitions in the history of life on Earth represents a hurdle that must be overcome on the path to intelligence and technology. And we have only one example to study, our own world, which makes it very difficult to know how typical or unusual Earth's story might be. Eventually, among all the millions of species that have existed on Earth, one lineage developed large brains and sophisticated intelligence. Our own ancestors, primates living in Africa, began to make tools, use fire, develop language. Intelligence, it turned out, was a useful survival strategy. It allowed our ancestors to adapt to changing environments, to cooperate in large groups, to solve problems in flexible ways. But intelligence comes with costs. Large brains require enormous amounts of energy. A human brain, which makes up only about 2% of our body weight, consumes roughly 20% of our energy. Evolution does not produce such expensive organs unless there is a significant benefit. And on Earth, despite millions of species evolving over hundreds of millions of years, only one has developed the kind of intelligence that leads to technology and civilization. This might tell us something important about intelligence. It might not be a common outcome of evolution. Many successful species thrive without high intelligence. Sharks have existed for hundreds of millions of years with relatively simple brains. Insects are incredibly successful with tiny nervous systems. Intelligence is just one possible evolutionary strategy, and it is not obviously superior to alternatives. Our species, Homo sapiens, emerged only about 300,000 years ago. For most of that time, we lived as hunter-gatherers in small groups, without any technology more sophisticated than stone tools and fire. Civilization, in the form of cities and agriculture, is only about 10,000 years old. Writing is only about 5,000 years old. Science, as we know it, is only a few hundred years old, and our ability to send signals into space which would allow distant civilizations to detect us is less than a century old. Think about that timeline for a moment. Earth has existed for 4.5 billion years. Life has existed for nearly 4 billion years, but technological civilization has existed for less than 100 years. If we imagine the entire history of Earth compressed into a single 24-hour day, humans with technology would have appeared in the last fraction of a second before midnight. This raises an important question about the search for alien life. Even if life is common, even if intelligent life arises on many worlds, those civilizations might exist at different times. The universe is nearly 14 billion years old. Our galaxy is more than 13 billion years old. If technological civilizations typically exist for only brief periods before disappearing or before evolving into something we would not recognize, then the chances of two civilizations existing at the same time might be quite small. Imagine standing in a vast forest where fireflies occasionally light up for just a few seconds before going dark again. Even if there are many fireflies in the forest, at any given moment, you might see very few of them glowing. The timing has to be just right. You and the firefly have to exist and be looking at the same time. This temporal dimension of the Fermi Paradox is something we need to keep in mind. When we look out at the universe and wonder where everyone is, we are not just asking about space, we are also asking about time. An alien civilization might have existed 1 million years ago, or might arise 1 million years in the future, and we would never know. But let us continue thinking about the path to technological civilization. Suppose intelligent life does arise on a planet. Suppose that intelligence leads to tool use, language, culture, and eventually science and technology. What happens next? On Earth, our technological development has accelerated dramatically in recent centuries. We went from the first powered flight to landing on the moon in just 66 years. We went from the first electronic computers to the internet and smartphones in a few decades. The pace of change has been breathtaking. This rapid advancement might be typical for technological civilizations. Once a species develops science and begins to understand the fundamental laws of nature, progress might naturally accelerate, or our experience might be unusual. Perhaps most species develop more slowly, or perhaps many species reach a certain level and then plateau, never advancing much further. One thing we notice about our own technological development is that it has brought both tremendous benefits and serious risks. Modern medicine has extended human lifespans and reduced suffering. Agriculture and technology have allowed our population to grow from a few million to nearly 8 billion. We can communicate instantly across the globe. We can explore other worlds with robotic probes. We can peer deep into the universe and back in time to see the cosmic dawn. But we have also developed the ability to destroy ourselves. Nuclear weapons could end civilization in an afternoon. Climate change threatens to make large parts of our planet uninhabitable. Pollution degrades our environment. Loss of biodiversity weakens the ecosystems we depend on. Artificial intelligence might someday pose risks we cannot yet fully anticipate. Synthetic biology could potentially create pathogens more dangerous than anything nature has produced. Every advance in our power to shape the world comes with new responsibilities and new dangers. As we have become more capable, we have also become more vulnerable in certain ways. Our civilization now depends on complex systems, global trade networks, power grids, communication satellites. Disrupting these systems could have cascading effects. This is relevant to our question about alien life, because it raises the possibility that technological civilizations might not last very long. Perhaps the same intelligence and curiosity that lead to technology also tend to create existential risks. Perhaps most civilizations destroy themselves, either through war, environmental collapse, or some unforeseen consequence of their own creations, before they have a chance to spread beyond their home planet or send signals that others might detect. This possibility is sometimes called the Great Filter. The idea is that somewhere along the path from lifeless planet to galaxy-spanning civilization, there is at least one extremely difficult step that very few succeed in passing. A filter that removes most possibilities. The Great Filter could be behind us in our past. Perhaps the origin of life is incredibly rare, or the transition to complex cells, or the evolution of intelligence. If the filter is behind us, then we are extraordinarily fortunate to exist. But the universe might indeed be full of life at various stages, with very few reaching our level of development. Or the Great Filter might be ahead of us in our future. Perhaps every technological civilization eventually encounters challenges it cannot overcome. Perhaps self-destruction is common. Perhaps spreading to other star systems is much harder than we imagine. If this is the case, then the silence we observe in the universe becomes more ominous. It suggests that something prevents civilizations from becoming visible on cosmic scales. We do not know which possibility is correct. And that uncertainty is part of what makes the question both fascinating and unsettling. Let us think about the practical challenges of detecting alien life or alien civilizations. When we search for signs of life beyond Earth, we have several approaches we can take. The most direct approach would be to visit other worlds and look for life there. We have done this in our own solar system to a limited extent. Robotic probes have explored Mars extensively. We have sent missions to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. We have landed on asteroids and comets. We have studied the atmospheres of Venus and the surfaces of distant moons. So far, we have not found life anywhere except Earth. Mars appears to be a cold, dry desert world today, though it was once warmer and wetter billions of years ago. Some scientists speculate that life might have arisen on ancient Mars and might still exist underground where liquid water could persist. But we have not yet found evidence of it. Some of the moons in the outer solar system are intriguing. Europa, which orbits Jupiter, appears to have a global ocean of liquid water beneath its icy crust. Enceladus, a small moon of Saturn, shoots geysers of water ice into space, suggesting it too has a subsurface ocean. These hidden oceans might be habitable. They might even harbor life. But exploring them will require sophisticated missions that can drill through kilometers of ice or analyze the materials erupting from geysers. The search for life in our own solar system continues, but it is limited by the fact that we can only visit nearby worlds with robotic probes that take years to arrive at their destinations, and our solar system is just one of billions. To search for life around other stars, we need different methods. One approach is to study the atmospheres of planets orbiting other stars. When a planet passes in front of its star from our perspective, a tiny fraction of the star's light passes through the planet's atmosphere. By carefully analyzing that light, we can detect which gases are present in the atmosphere. Certain combinations of gases might indicate the presence of life. For example, oxygen and methane together in an atmosphere would be unusual and might suggest biological processes. This technique is challenging and requires extremely sensitive instruments, but we are beginning to develop the technology to do it. In the coming years and decades, we may be able to study dozens or even hundreds of Earth-like planets, looking for biosignatures in their atmospheres. But even if we detect biosignatures, they will likely indicate only simple life, microorganisms altering their planet's chemistry. To detect intelligent life, technological civilizations, we need to look for different signs. For more than 60 years, scientists have been conducting SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. This involves using radio telescopes to listen for signals from space that might be artificial, produced by alien technology, rather than natural cosmic processes. The idea is simple. If an alien civilization has developed radio technology, they might be broadcasting signals, either intentionally to announce their presence or unintentionally as a byproduct of their communications. If we could detect such signals, we would know immediately that we are not alone. The challenge is that space is vast and radio signals spread out and become weaker with distance. A signal from a civilization hundreds or thousands of light years away would be incredibly faint by the time it reached Earth. We would need powerful telescopes pointed in exactly the right direction at exactly the right time, listening at exactly the right frequency. Despite decades of searching, we have not detected any confirmed alien signals. We have found a few interesting candidates, brief anomalies that made scientists take notice, but none have been repeated or confirmed. The most famous is the WOW signal, detected in 1977, a strong narrowband radio signal that lasted for 72 seconds and has never been detected again. We do not know what caused it. It might have been alien, or it might have been a natural phenomenon we do not understand, or interference from a human source. The fact that we have not detected alien signals tells us something, though interpreting what it tells us is not straightforward. It could mean that intelligent life is rare, or that technological civilizations do not last long enough to broadcast for the centuries or millennia it would take for their signals to reach us, or that alien civilizations use communication methods we have not thought of, technologies we cannot detect. It is also possible that civilizations deliberately choose not to broadcast. If space is dangerous, if announcing your presence could invite unwanted attention from hostile aliens, then quiet might be the safer strategy. This idea, sometimes called the dark forest hypothesis, suggests that civilizations might hide, remaining silent and listening, afraid of what might happen if they revealed themselves. There is no evidence for this idea, but we cannot rule it out either. We simply do not know enough about what other civilizations might be like or what motivations they might have. Another possibility is that we are in what some scientists call the cosmic prehistory of intelligence. Perhaps we are among the first technological civilizations to arise in our galaxy. The universe is nearly 14 billion years old, but the first stars did not have planets like Earth. They were made only of hydrogen and helium. It took generations of stars living and dying to create the heavier elements needed for rocky planets and complex chemistry. Perhaps conditions have only recently, in cosmic terms, become right for life and intelligence to flourish. If so, the galaxy might seem empty now, but could become crowded with civilizations in the future. This would be a hopeful interpretation of the silence we observe. It would mean we are pioneers, among the first to look out at the stars and wonder if anyone else is there. But it is speculative. We have no way to know if it is correct. As we think about all these possibilities, a certain picture begins to emerge. The universe is unimaginably vast and old. Conditions suitable for life seem to be common, yet we see no obvious evidence of widespread alien civilizations. This combination of facts suggests that something, somewhere along the chain from simple chemistry to galaxy-spanning intelligence, is difficult or rare. We do not know what that something is. It could be the origin of life itself. It could be the evolution of complex cells or multicellular organisms. It could be the development of intelligence. Or it could be something in the future, something that technological civilizations typically do not survive long enough to overcome. Each possibility carries different implications for us. If the difficult step is behind us, if we have already passed through the great filter, then we can breathe somewhat easier. Our existence suggests we are past the hardest part. But if the filter lies ahead, if something tends to destroy technological civilizations before they mature, then we should be concerned. We should think carefully about the risks we face and how we might avoid whatever fate befell other civilizations. There is a peculiar kind of loneliness in contemplating these questions. When we look at the night sky, we see a universe of staggering beauty and complexity. Galaxies swirling with billions of stars, nebulae where new stars are born, the remnants of stars that died long ago. And yet, for all its grandeur, the universe appears silent and empty. Perhaps we are alone, the only conscious minds in all this vastness. Or perhaps we are surrounded by life, but separated by distances and timescales so enormous that we might never make contact. Perhaps civilizations arise and fall like waves on a shore, each one existing for a brief moment before vanishing, none lasting long enough to overlap with others. The uncertainty itself is part of what makes this question so profound. We genuinely do not know, and our not knowing forces us to confront deep questions about existence, about our own place in the cosmos, about what the future might hold. In thinking about alien life, we are really thinking about ourselves. What does it mean that we exist? How typical or unusual is our story? Are we precious, the only instance of consciousness in the entire universe? Or are we ordinary, one example among countless others? The answer matters because it shapes how we see our responsibilities, our potential, our significance. If we are alone, then the future of life and intelligence in the universe rests entirely with us. We become, in a sense, the caretakers of something infinitely valuable and irreplaceable. The complexity and wonder that life represents would exist nowhere else. Our survival and flourishing would take on cosmic importance. But if we are one among many, if the universe is full of life and intelligence, then we are part of a larger community, even if we have not yet made contact with other members. Our actions matter, but not in quite the same absolute way. We would be participants in a vast cosmic story rather than its sole authors. We do not yet know which of these is true. And perhaps we will not know for a long time. The search for life beyond Earth continues, but it is a patient search, one that may take generations to yield answers. In the meantime, we can observe that the question itself, the wondering, the searching, is part of what makes us human. We are curious. We want to know. We look up at the stars and ask if anyone is looking back. This curiosity has driven us to explore, to build telescopes and spacecraft, to develop the science and technology that allow us to investigate these profound questions. As we move forward into the future, we will continue to search. We will build more sensitive instruments. We will study more planets. We will listen more carefully to the cosmos. And perhaps someday we will find an answer, a signal from the stars, a biosignature in an alien atmosphere, evidence at last that we are not alone. Or perhaps we will never find such evidence. Perhaps the silence will continue, decade after decade, century after century, and we will have to make peace with uncertainty, with not knowing. Either way, the question remains important. It challenges us to think about who we are and what our existence means. It encourages us to consider our future and the choices we make. It reminds us that we live in a universe full of mystery, a universe that we are only beginning to understand. The universe, in its vastness, contains more stars than we can count, more worlds than we can imagine, and somewhere among all those worlds, on at least one small planet orbiting an ordinary star, life exists. It has existed here for billions of years. It has evolved, adapted, persisted through catastrophes and mass extinctions. It has produced diversity and complexity beyond measure. And in the last few 100,000 years on this one world, life produced something new. Consciousness, self-awareness, the ability to contemplate existence itself, the capacity to ask questions and seek answers, the drive to explore and understand. We are that consciousness. We are the universe becoming aware of itself. We are matter organized in such a way that it can think, wonder, create, and love. Whatever else we may learn about life in the universe, we know this much for certain. We exist, and our existence is remarkable. The silence of the universe, whatever its cause, does not diminish this. Whether we are alone or one among many, our existence matters. Our experiences, our relationships, our attempts to understand the world around us, these things have value, they have meaning. As we continue our exploration of this question, as we think about the possibility of alien life and what it might mean to find it or not find it, we carry with us this sense of wonder and curiosity. We do not know what answers await us, but we continue to ask the questions, to search, to hope, to imagine. The universe is patient. It has waited billions of years already. It will wait longer still. We are part of that universe, products of its physics and chemistry shaped by its history. And now, in this brief moment of cosmic time, we have the privilege of looking back at the universe that made us and asking it questions. Where did we come from? Where are we going? Are we alone? These questions connect us to something larger than ourselves, to the grand story of existence itself. And so we continue day by day to search and to wonder. We build our telescopes and our theories. We send our probes into space. We listen for signals. We study distant worlds. We do this because we cannot help ourselves. Curiosity is part of who we are. The answer to whether we are alone, whatever it turns out to be, will teach us something profound about the universe and about ourselves. Until we find that answer, we live with the mystery. We embrace the uncertainty, we keep searching. And in the searching itself, in the asking of these deep questions, we find part of what makes us human. We are the creatures who look up at the stars and wonder. We are the part of the universe that asks questions about the rest of the universe. This is our nature. This is our gift. This is what makes our brief existence in this vast cosmos meaningful. The journey to understand our place in the universe has only just begun. When we think about the search for life beyond Earth, we often focus on the technological aspects, the telescopes we build, the signals we listen for, the missions we send to other planets. But underlying all of this is a deeper question about what life actually is and how we would recognize it if we found it. Life on Earth shares certain fundamental characteristics. All living things, from the smallest bacteria to the largest whales, are made of cells. They all use the same basic genetic code written in DNA. They all require energy to maintain themselves and grow. They all reproduce, creating copies of themselves with small variations. And they all evolved from a common ancestor that lived billions of years ago. This unity of life on Earth is remarkable. It tells us that all the diversity we see around us, millions of species with vastly different shapes and abilities, all trace back to a single origin. Life started once on our planet, and everything alive today is descended from that first living thing. But this also means we have only one example of life to study. We know what Earth life is like, but we do not know if life elsewhere would be similar or completely different. Would alien life use DNA? Would it be based on carbon and water like us? Would it even be cellular? These questions matter because they affect how we search for life and how we would recognize it if we found it. If life can only exist in forms similar to Earth life, then we know what to look for. But if life can take radically different forms, using different chemistry and operating by different principles, then we might miss it even if it were right in front of us. Let us think about the chemistry of life for a moment. On Earth, all life is based on carbon. Carbon atoms can form strong bonds with many other types of atoms, allowing them to create large, complex molecules. These molecules can have intricate three-dimensional shapes that allow them to interact with other molecules in precise ways. This is the foundation of biochemistry, the chemistry of living things. Carbon is abundant in the universe. It is created inside stars and scattered through space when those stars die. Every star system contains carbon, so if life requires carbon, at least that ingredient is widely available. Water is equally important for Earth life. It is the solvent in which the chemistry of life takes place. Biological molecules float in water, dissolved or suspended, coming together to interact and then drifting apart. Water has special properties that make it ideal for this role. It stays liquid over a wide temperature range. It can dissolve both polar and some non-polar substances. It is incredibly common throughout the universe. Together, carbon-based chemistry in a water-based environment seems like a robust foundation for life. It is likely that if we find life elsewhere, it will resemble Earth life at least in these basic ways. But we cannot be certain. Other chemistries might be possible. Silicon, for example, is chemically similar to carbon and could potentially form the basis of life under different conditions. Silicon-based life is a staple of science fiction, but silicon bonds are generally weaker and less versatile than carbon bonds. Silicon also tends to form insoluble compounds with oxygen, which would be problematic for life. So while silicon-based life is not impossible, it seems less likely than carbon-based life. Other solvents besides water have been proposed. Liquid methane or ammonia could potentially serve the same role as water on worlds where water is frozen solid. Saturn's moon Titan has lakes and seas of liquid methane and ethane on its surface. Some scientists have speculated that a completely different kind of biochemistry might exist there, using methane as a solvent instead of water. Such life would be very different from anything on Earth, operating at temperatures far below freezing. We have no evidence that such exotic life exists, but we cannot rule it out. The universe is so large and so varied that even unlikely possibilities might be realized somewhere. When we search for life, we have to make assumptions about what we are looking for. We cannot search for every conceivable type of life simultaneously, so we focus on what we know, on chemistry similar to our own, on conditions similar to those on Earth. This is practical, but it also means we might miss forms of life that are very different. This limitation is worth keeping in mind. When we say we have found no evidence of life beyond Earth, we mean we have found no evidence of life as we know it. There could be forms of life we would not recognize, operating in environments we have not thought to examine. But let us return to thinking about life as we understand it, carbon-based and water-dependent. If such life exists elsewhere in the universe, where might we find it? What kinds of worlds might be habitable? The traditional answer focuses on planets in the habitable zone of their star, not too hot, not too cold, with liquid water on the surface, Earth-like planets orbiting Sun-like stars. This is a reasonable place to start, and it is where we are focusing much of our search. But we are learning that habitability might be more diverse than we once thought. Consider Europa, Jupiter's moon. Its surface is covered with ice, and it orbits far from the Sun, well outside any traditional habitable zone. Yet beneath its icy shell, heated by tidal forces from Jupiter's gravity, there appears to be a vast ocean of liquid water. That ocean might be habitable. It might even harbor life. If Europa has life, it would tell us something important. It would mean that life does not require a planet in a star's habitable zone. Moons can be habitable too, if they have the right conditions. And moons are common. Many of the giant planets in our solar system have large moons. If similar moons exist around giant planets in other star systems, the number of potentially habitable worlds increases dramatically. Tidal heating, the same force that keeps Europa's ocean liquid, could create habitable environments in many places we would not otherwise expect. A moon orbiting a gas giant could have oceans beneath its ice, even in a star system where the habitable zone is too close to the star for such a moon to exist in it. Deep underground environments might also be habitable. On Earth, we have found life deep in the crust, kilometers below the surface, in rocks and aquifers that never see sunlight. These organisms survive on chemical energy rather than solar energy. If similar environments exist on other worlds, they too might harbor life. The range of potentially habitable environments is broader than we once realized. Life might exist in places we have not thought to look. This is encouraging for those who hope to find life elsewhere. It means more places to search, more opportunities for life to arise and persist, but it also complicates the search. If habitable environments can exist in many different contexts, then we cannot simply point our telescopes at Earth-like planets and expect to find all the life that exists. We need to think more broadly about where life might be and how we might detect it. One approach is to focus on biosignatures, signs that life is present. For planets with atmospheres we can study, certain gases or combinations of gases might indicate life. Oxygen is a strong biosignature because it is reactive and would disappear from an atmosphere unless something is continuously producing it. On Earth, photosynthetic organisms produce oxygen as a waste product. If we detected significant oxygen in the atmosphere of a distant planet, It would suggest that something similar might be happening there. But we need to be careful. Not all biosignatures are unambiguous. Oxygen can be produced by non-biological processes in some circumstances. We could detect what appears to be a biosignature and later discover it has a non-biological explanation. This has happened before in the search for life. In the 1990s, scientists studying a meteorite from Mars announced they had found evidence of ancient Martian life. The meteorite contained structures that resembled fossilized bacteria, along with certain minerals and organic compounds that could have been produced by living organisms. The announcement was exciting and controversial. Some scientists were convinced, others were skeptical. Over time, as more research was conducted, the consensus shifted. Most scientists now believe the structures in the meteorite were not biological. They could be explained by non-biological processes. The organic compounds could have formed without life. The minerals could have been created chemically. This does not prove that Mars never had life. It simply means that this particular piece of evidence was not as strong as initially thought. The episode taught scientists to be cautious about claiming to have found life. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and the evidence must withstand rigorous scrutiny. The same caution applies to the search for biosignatures in the atmospheres of distant planets. We need to be thorough in ruling out non-biological explanations before concluding that we have found life. Despite these challenges, the search continues and technology improves. New telescopes coming online in the next few years will be able to study exoplanet atmospheres in unprecedented detail. We will learn whether Earth-like planets are common and whether any of them show signs of life. But what if we find nothing? What if we study hundreds of Earth-like planets and find no convincing biosignatures? Would that mean life is rare? Not necessarily. Life might be common but difficult to detect. Simple microbial life might not produce obvious atmospheric signatures, or life might exist primarily in subsurface environments where we cannot observe it directly. Or we might simply need to study more planets, thousands or millions rather than hundreds, to find the few that harbor detectable life. The absence of evidence is not the same as evidence of absence. Even if we search for decades and find nothing, we cannot conclude with certainty that life does not exist elsewhere. We can only say that we have not yet found it. This is the nature of the search. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to accept uncertainty. We might find life tomorrow, or we might search for centuries without success. We do not know. But the importance of the question motivates us to keep trying. Let us shift our focus now to think about intelligence. Even if simple life is common in the universe, intelligent life might be rare. The evolution of intelligence is not inevitable. It is one possible outcome of evolution, but not the only one or even the most common one. On Earth, intelligence has evolved independently several times. Dolphins and whales have large, complex brains and sophisticated social behaviors. Elephants demonstrate problem-solving abilities and emotional depth. Crows and parrots use tools and can solve puzzles. Octopuses, despite having a completely different evolutionary history from vertebrates, show remarkable intelligence. So intelligence is not unique to humans, but the kind of intelligence that leads to technology, to cumulative culture and science, appears to be rare. Of all the millions of species that have existed on Earth, only one has developed this level of cognitive ability. Why is this? What makes human intelligence special? Part of the answer involves our evolutionary history. Our ancestors were primates living in complex social groups. Social living created pressures that favored intelligence. understanding social relationships, predicting what others might do, cooperating and competing effectively, all of these required cognitive abilities. Our ancestors also had hands capable of fine manipulation. They could make and use tools. This created a feedback loop. Better tools required more intelligence to create and use. More intelligence allowed for better tools. Over millions of years, this loop drove the evolution of larger brains and greater cognitive abilities. Language was crucial as well. The ability to communicate complex ideas allowed knowledge to be shared across generations. Each generation did not have to rediscover everything for themselves. They could build on what their ancestors had learned. This cumulative culture accelerated the development of technology and science. But many of these factors were contingent, dependent on specific circumstances. If our primate ancestors had not happened to live in social groups, or if they had not had hands capable of manipulation, or if language had not evolved, human-level intelligence might never have arisen. This contingency suggests that even on planets where life exists and evolves for billions of years, intelligence might not emerge. The specific sequence of events that led to humans might be unusual. Other worlds might be full of life, but lack anything we would recognize as intelligent. Or intelligence might be common, but the kind of intelligence that leads to technology might be rare. Dolphins are intelligent, but they live in an environment where fire is impossible, and building complex tools is difficult. An aquatic, intelligent species might never develop technology, not because they lack the cognitive ability, but because their environment does not allow it. These considerations suggest that even if we find simple life on other worlds, the discovery of intelligent life, of civilizations we could communicate with, might be much more difficult. And this brings us back to the Fermi Paradox. If intelligence and technology are rare, the paradox becomes less paradoxical. The universe could be teeming with simple life, microbes, and perhaps even complex multicellular organisms, while intelligent technological civilizations remain extremely rare. In such a universe, we might be alone or nearly alone as a technological species, even though life itself is common. There is something both humbling and elevating about this possibility. Humbling because it reminds us that we are products of contingency, lucky beneficiaries of a specific sequence of evolutionary accidents. Elevating because it suggests that consciousness and intelligence, the very things that make us who we are, might be precious and rare in the cosmos. But there is another possibility we must consider. Perhaps intelligence and technology are not particularly rare. Perhaps they arise on many worlds, but perhaps they do not last. Think about our own civilization. We have had the ability to communicate via radio waves for only about a century. For most of human history, we could not send or receive signals across interstellar distances. If we had existed at any earlier time, an alien civilization searching for us would have found nothing. Now we can communicate, at least in principle. But for how long? How long will human civilization persist? How long will we continue to broadcast radio signals into space? These questions are impossible to answer with certainty, but we can make some observations. Our civilization faces numerous challenges. Climate change could make parts of Earth uninhabitable and trigger conflicts over resources. Nuclear weapons could devastate our world in a matter of hours. Engineered pathogens could cause pandemics far worse than anything we have experienced. Artificial intelligence, as it becomes more capable, might pose risks we are only beginning to understand. Any of these could, in a worst-case scenario, end our civilization or reduce us to a much simpler state where we could no longer maintain technological infrastructure or send signals into space. And even if we avoid catastrophic risks, it is not clear that we will continue to broadcast detectable radio signals indefinitely. Our communications technology is already changing. We use less powerful radio transmissions than we did decades ago. We are moving toward more efficient, directed communications that leak less energy into space. In the future, we might communicate primarily through fiber optic cables or other technologies that produce no detectable signature beyond Earth. If our experience is typical, then technological civilizations might have a radio-visible phase that lasts only a few centuries, a brief window during which they can be detected from afar before they either destroy themselves or advance to quieter technologies. This would help explain the silence. Even if thousands of civilizations exist in our galaxy, if each one is detectable for only a few hundred years out of billions of years of galactic history, the chances of detecting one at any given time might be quite small. This is a sobering thought. It suggests that technological civilizations might be everywhere in time but nowhere in space at any particular moment, like ships passing in the night, never close enough to see each other's lights. There is a related idea that some scientists have proposed called the Great Silence. This refers not just to the absence of radio signals, but to the absence of any obvious signs of alien civilizations in the universe. If intelligent life is common and civilizations last for long periods, we might expect to see evidence of their activities on cosmic scales. Advanced civilizations might build enormous structures, megastructures that would be visible across interstellar distances. They might harness the energy of their entire star, creating artifacts we could detect with our telescopes. They might spread from star to star, colonizing the galaxy. If they did, we should see signs of this. Modified stars, artificial structures, patterns that do not occur in nature. But we see nothing of the sort. The universe looks natural. Stars and galaxies evolve according to physical laws, with no apparent intervention from intelligent beings. Space appears empty of civilizations, at least in our cosmic neighborhood. This great silence is the observational fact that motivates the Fermi Paradox. It is what we need to explain. Either life or intelligence is rare, or civilizations do not last long, or they do not expand across the galaxy, or they hide themselves deliberately, or some combination of these factors. Each explanation has different implications. If life is rare, then Earth is special, perhaps even unique. We should cherish it and protect it, because there may be nothing else like it in the accessible universe. If intelligence is rare, then consciousness and self-awareness are precious things that arose against enormous odds. We are the universe waking up, possibly one of very few instances of this happening. If civilizations tend to destroy themselves, then we face serious risks in our own future that we need to carefully navigate. We should study the challenges ahead and work hard to avoid whatever fate befell other civilizations. If civilizations do not expand because interstellar travel is too difficult or too undesirable, then our future might be limited to our own solar system, at least for the foreseeable future. We would remain forever bound to our home star, unable to reach others. If civilizations hide, then perhaps we should too. Perhaps announcing our presence is dangerous, and wisdom lies in silence. We do not know which of these explanations is correct. It is possible that several of them are partly true. The universe is complicated, and simple explanations are often inadequate. What we can say is that the question of alien life, and particularly alien intelligence, touches on fundamental issues about existence, meaning, and our place in the cosmos. The answer, whatever it turns out to be, will shape how we see ourselves and our future. Let us think for a moment about what contact with an alien civilization would actually mean. This is a favorite topic of science fiction, and many stories have explored the possibilities. Contact could be peaceful, leading to an exchange of knowledge and culture, or it could be hostile, with one civilization threatening or conquering the other, or it could be neutral, with both sides observing each other from a distance without much interaction. In reality, contact would likely be nothing like the scenarios depicted in movies and books. The distances between stars are so vast that physical travel is extremely difficult. Even signals traveling at the speed of light take years or decades or centuries to cross interstellar space. If we detected a signal from an alien civilization, it would likely come from hundreds or thousands of light years away. Our response would take just as long to reach them. A conversation would unfold over centuries or millennia. By the time we received their response to our message, many generations would have passed. The civilization that sent the original signal might no longer exist. This makes contact very different from meeting another person or even another culture on Earth. It would be slow, asynchronous, perhaps more like exchanging messages in bottles thrown into an ocean than like a real-time conversation. And yet, even this limited form of contact would be profound. To know that we are not alone, that somewhere out there another civilization exists or existed, would fundamentally change how we see ourselves. It would answer one of the deepest questions humans have ever asked. The content of such a message would be fascinating to contemplate. What would an alien civilization choose to tell us? They would likely assume that any species capable of detecting their signal would be scientifically advanced. They might send mathematical or scientific information, concepts that would be universal to any technological civilization. They might send information about themselves, their history, their biology, their culture, or they might simply announce their existence and location, leaving the details for further exchanges. From our perspective, receiving such a message would raise many questions. How should we respond? Should we respond at all? What would we want to say to another civilization? These are not just technical questions, but ethical and philosophical ones. Some scientists have argued that we should not broadcast our presence to the cosmos. If space is dangerous, if hostile civilizations exist, then remaining quiet might be safer than announcing ourselves. This is the logic behind the dark forest hypothesis mentioned earlier. Others argue that this fear is unfounded. Any civilization capable of interstellar travel would have access to abundant resources in space. They would have no need to invade Earth or harm us. The universe is vast and resources are plentiful. Conflict might be unnecessary. We cannot know who is right without more information, and so we face a choice. Do we actively broadcast messages to the stars, hoping to make contact? Or do we listen quietly, searching for signals from others while remaining silent ourselves? So far, humanity has done a bit of both. We have sent a few deliberate messages into space, though these have been limited and symbolic rather than serious attempts at communication. Mostly, we listen, we search, we wait. This might be what most civilizations do. If everyone is listening and no one is broadcasting, that would help explain the silence. Everyone is waiting for someone else to make the first move. Or perhaps civilizations go through phases. Young civilizations might broadcast enthusiastically, announcing their presence. More mature civilizations might become quieter, either because they learn caution or because their technology advances beyond noisy radio communications. If this is the case, then the galaxy might be full of listening civilizations, all silent, all waiting. An entire galaxy of patient listeners, each hoping to detect a signal from someone else. This image is both amusing and somewhat sad. Imagine a universe full of intelligence, all capable of communication, but none making contact because each waits for the other to speak first. Of course, this is speculation. We have no way of knowing what other civilizations, if they exist, are doing or thinking. We can only observe the silence and try to understand what it might mean. As we think about these possibilities, it is worth reflecting on what makes this question so compelling. Why do we care so much about whether we are alone? Part of the answer is simple curiosity. Humans are curious creatures. We want to know things. The question of alien life is one of the biggest unknowns, and that makes it irresistible. But there is more to it than curiosity. The question touches on deep issues of meaning and significance. If we are alone, then, in a sense, we are the meaning of the universe. We are the part of it that thinks and understands. Our existence gives the universe purpose, or at least awareness. But if we are one among many, then we are part of a larger story. We would have peers, other minds, other perspectives. The universe would be a much richer and more complex place than we currently imagine. Either answer would be profound, either answer would change us, and that is part of why we search so diligently, even though we do not know what we will find. There is also a practical dimension to this question. Understanding whether life is common or rare affects how we think about our own future. If life is rare, if Earth is precious and perhaps unique, then we have a strong obligation to preserve it. Extinction would not just be a tragedy for us, but for the universe as a whole. If life is common, our responsibilities might be somewhat different. We would still want to survive and thrive, but the cosmic stakes might be lower. Other instances of life would exist elsewhere. These considerations might seem abstract, but they inform how we think about existential risks, about environmental protection, about the value of preserving biodiversity and avoiding catastrophes that could end our civilization. In a universe where we are alone, our survival matters cosmically. In a universe full of life, it matters primarily to us. Both are good reasons to care, but the weight of responsibility feels different. Of course, we do not yet know which kind of universe we inhabit. So perhaps we should act as if we are alone, taking the more cautious and responsible path, while remaining open to the possibility that we might someday discover otherwise. As our technology improves and our search continues, we may eventually find answers, or we may continue to live with uncertainty for generations to come. The universe is patient, and some questions take a long time to resolve. In the meantime, we can appreciate the fact that we are here, that we can ask these questions at all. We are part of the universe that has become aware of itself. We are made of atoms forged in stars, organized in such a way that we can think about stars, wonder about them, study them. This is remarkable regardless of whether we are alone or not. The fact of our existence, the fact of consciousness and intelligence arising from matter, is extraordinary. We should not lose sight of this even as we search for other examples elsewhere. The journey of understanding our place in the cosmos is ongoing. Each generation adds to the knowledge accumulated by previous generations. Each new discovery brings us closer to answers, even as it often raises new questions. We stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, who wondered about the same questions, but with less knowledge and less sophisticated tools. And future generations will stand on our shoulders, continuing the search with capabilities we can only imagine. This continuity across time this shared quest for understanding connects us to our past and our future. It is one of the noblest aspects of human civilization, this drive to know, to understand, to explore. Whatever answers we eventually find about life in the universe, the search itself is valuable. It pushes us to develop better technology. It encourages international cooperation. It inspires young people to study science. It reminds us that there are mysteries still unsolved, wonders still undiscovered, and perhaps most importantly, it encourages us to think beyond our immediate concerns and everyday problems. It lifts our gaze to the cosmos and reminds us that we are part of something vast and ancient and magnificent. The question of whether we are alone is not just about finding aliens. It is about understanding ourselves, our origins, our future, our place in the grand scheme of things. It is about making sense of our existence in a universe that is often mysterious and sometimes overwhelming. As we continue this exploration, we do so with a mixture of hope and humility. Hope that we might find answers, that we might someday make contact with another civilization, or at least find evidence that life exists elsewhere. Humility because we recognize how much we do not know, how much we are still learning, how small we are in the context of cosmic time and space. This balance of hope and humility seems appropriate. We search because we hope to find something, but we remain humble because we recognize that the universe might not yield its secrets easily, and the answers we seek might be different from what we expect. The silence we observe might be temporary, a product of our limited technology and short history as a technological civilization. Or it might be enduring, telling us something fundamental about the rarity of life or intelligence or civilizations. We do not yet know, and so we continue patiently and persistently to search and to wonder. As we continue to explore the question of whether we are alone in the universe, we need to think carefully about what the future might hold. The search for extraterrestrial life is not just about looking outward into space. It is also about looking forward in time, considering what humanity might become and how that transformation might affect our understanding of life and intelligence in the cosmos. Our species is changing in ways that would have seemed like magic to our ancestors just a few generations ago. We have developed technologies that extend our senses, allowing us to see things too small or too distant for our eyes alone. We have created machines that can perform calculations faster than any human mind. We are beginning to understand the genetic code that defines our biology, and we are learning how to modify it. These changes are accelerating. The pace of technological development has increased dramatically over the past century. Things that once took generations to accomplish now happen in years or even months. This acceleration shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, it seems to be speeding up. What does this mean for the future? Where might we be in 100 years or 1,000 or 1,000,000? These are difficult questions to answer with any certainty, but thinking about them can help us understand the challenges and possibilities that lie ahead. One of the most significant technologies we are developing is artificial intelligence. We have created computer systems that can recognize patterns, make predictions, play games at superhuman levels, and even generate text and images that seem remarkably human-like. These systems are still narrow in their capabilities, good at specific tasks but unable to match the general intelligence of a human being. But progress is rapid. Each year, artificial intelligence systems become more capable. They can do things that were impossible just a few years earlier. Some researchers believe that within this century, we might create artificial general intelligence. systems that can think and reason as flexibly as humans across a wide range of tasks. If we do create such systems, it would represent a profound change in the nature of intelligence on Earth. For the first time in our planet's history, there would be minds that were not products of biological evolution. These minds would be designed rather than evolved, created by us for purposes we define. This raises fascinating and troubling questions. What would such minds be like? Would they be conscious, experiencing the world as we do? Would they have goals and desires of their own? Or would they simply serve the purposes we program into them? How would we ensure they remain beneficial to humanity rather than becoming a threat? These questions are not merely theoretical. As artificial intelligence becomes more capable, they become increasingly urgent. We need to think carefully about how we develop these systems and what safeguards we put in place. From the perspective of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, artificial intelligence is relevant because it suggests a possible trajectory for technological civilizations. Perhaps all civilizations that develop technology eventually create artificial intelligence. Perhaps this is a common stage in the development of intelligence in the universe. If so, what happens next? Does biological intelligence give way to artificial intelligence? Do civilizations transition from being biological to being synthetic? This might seem like science fiction, but it is a possibility we need to consider. If most advanced civilizations are synthetic rather than biological, this could affect what we should be searching for. We have been looking for signs of biological life, for planets with water and oxygen, for the kinds of conditions that support life as we know it. But advanced synthetic intelligence might not need such conditions. It might thrive in the vacuum of space or on worlds we would consider utterly inhospitable. This could help explain the Great Silence. If advanced civilizations are synthetic, they might not produce the kinds of signals we are looking for. They might operate in ways we have not anticipated. They might be all around us, but invisible to our current search methods. This is speculative, of course. We have no evidence that synthetic civilizations exist anywhere, but it is a possibility worth considering as we think about the future of intelligence in the universe. Another technology that could transform humanity is genetic engineering. We are learning how to read and edit the genetic code that defines living things. We can already make targeted changes to DNA, correcting genetic diseases or modifying organisms to have new traits. As this technology improves, we might gain the ability to fundamentally redesign ourselves. We could eliminate genetic diseases, enhance our physical and mental capabilities, extend our lifespans indefinitely. We could adapt ourselves to live in environments that are currently hostile to human life, like the surface of Mars or the depths of space. This kind of biological modification could lead to something beyond current humanity, a post-human species with capabilities we can barely imagine. Such beings might be as different from us as we are from our ape ancestors. Again, this has implications for the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. If civilizations typically modify themselves in radical ways, then what we are searching for might not resemble us very closely. We might have difficulty recognizing intelligence that has taken very different forms. There is also the possibility of merging biological and artificial intelligence, creating hybrid systems that combine the strengths of both. Humans might enhance themselves with artificial components, becoming cyborgs, or artificial intelligences might be given biological bodies. The boundary between biological and artificial might become blurred. All of these possibilities represent different paths that technological civilizations might follow. We do not know which path, if any, humanity will take. We do not know which paths other civilizations might have taken. But thinking about these possibilities expands our understanding of what intelligence might be like in the universe. Let us consider another aspect of our future, the possibility of spreading beyond Earth. For now, humanity is confined to a single planet. We have sent astronauts to the moon and robotic probes throughout the solar system, but we remain fundamentally Earth-bound. Our entire civilization, everything we have built and created, exists on this one small world. This is a precarious situation. Earth faces various risks, from asteroid impacts to supervolcanic eruptions to threats of our own making. As long as we remain on a single planet, we are vulnerable. An event that devastates Earth would end our civilization and possibly our species. Spreading to other worlds would increase our resilience. If humans lived on multiple planets, a catastrophe on one would not mean extinction. Our species and our civilization could survive and rebuild, but spreading beyond Earth is extraordinarily difficult. The distances between stars are vast beyond ordinary comprehension. The nearest star system to our own, Alpha Centauri, is more than 4 light-years away. With current technology, it would take tens of thousands of years to travel there. Even reaching Mars, the most accessible planet beyond Earth, requires months of travel and enormous resources. Establishing a permanent settlement on Mars would be a monumental undertaking, requiring solutions to countless technical challenges. We would need to provide air, water, food, shelter, and protection from radiation in an environment that has none of these things naturally. And Mars is close by cosmic standards, just minutes away at the speed of light. The nearest potentially habitable exoplanet is light years distant. Reaching it with any foreseeable technology would require centuries or millennia of travel time. This presents a serious obstacle to the spread of life and civilization through the galaxy. If interstellar travel is as difficult as it appears, then civilizations might remain confined to their home star systems indefinitely. This would help explain why we see no evidence of galaxy-spanning civilizations. Perhaps they simply cannot spread that far, but perhaps interstellar travel, while difficult, is not impossible. Various concepts have been proposed for how we might eventually travel to other stars. Generation ships, vast vessels that would travel for centuries with multiple generations living and dying aboard. Sleeper ships that would freeze or otherwise preserve passengers for the long journey. Relativistic spacecraft that would travel at a significant fraction of the speed of light, taking advantage of time dilation to make the journey seem shorter for those aboard. All of these concepts face enormous technical challenges, but they are not necessarily impossible. If humanity survives for centuries or millennia and continues to advance technologically, we might eventually develop the capability to travel to other stars. If we do, we would join a very small club. Interstellar travel is likely one of the hardest things a civilization can attempt. Most civilizations might never achieve it. Those that do would represent the rare few who overcame this immense challenge. And this brings us to another possible explanation for the Fermi Paradox. Perhaps interstellar travel is so difficult that very few civilizations ever manage it. Perhaps most remain confined to their home systems, living and dying on one world or a handful of worlds, orbiting their parent star. The galaxy would be filled with isolated civilizations, each unaware of the others, separated by distances too vast to cross. In such a universe, contact between civilizations would be rare or perhaps non-existent. We would be alone, not because we are the only civilization, but because we are separated from others by gulfs we cannot bridge. This is a lonely thought, but not an entirely pessimistic one. It would mean that life and intelligence are common in the universe. We would have cosmic neighbors, even if we could never visit them. And perhaps, even if physical travel is impossible, we could communicate across the distances using light or radio waves. But even communication faces challenges. As we discussed earlier, signals take years or centuries to cross interstellar distances. A conversation between civilizations would unfold over timescales far longer than a human lifetime. This makes communication very different from the kind of real-time exchange we are accustomed to. And there is another challenge to communication. We would need to have something in common with the civilization we are trying to communicate with. We would need a shared framework for understanding each other's messages. Mathematics and physics are often proposed as this shared framework. The laws of nature are universal. Any technological civilization would have discovered them. We could communicate using mathematical concepts and physical constants that both civilizations would recognize. But beyond the basics, communication becomes more difficult. How would we convey concepts that depend on our particular biology or culture? How would we describe colors to beings who might see different wavelengths of light? How would we explain music to beings who might have different senses? How would we discuss emotions or philosophy or art? These challenges might not be insurmountable, but they would require creativity and patience. We would need to build up a shared vocabulary step by step, starting with simple concepts and gradually working toward more complex ones. The effort would be worthwhile, though. Even limited communication with another civilization would be profoundly valuable. It would give us a different perspective on the universe and on ourselves. It would show us how other minds, shaped by different evolutionary pressures and different histories, understand the world. This exchange of perspectives might be one of the greatest benefits of contact with alien intelligence. We are limited by our own point of view, shaped by our biology and our history. We see the universe through human eyes. Think about it with human minds. Another civilization would see it differently, and that difference could teach us things we could never discover on our own. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Before we can communicate with another civilization, we need to find one. And as we have discussed, that search has so far yielded no confirmed results. This brings us back to the central question: why? Why do we see no evidence of other civilizations? We have explored many possible answers. Life might be rare, intelligence might be rare, civilizations might be short-lived, interstellar travel might be impossible, communication might be too difficult or too slow, civilizations might hide intentionally. We might be looking in the wrong places or in the wrong ways. Or perhaps the answer is simpler and more unsettling. Perhaps we are in fact alone. Perhaps Earth is the only place in the entire observable universe where life has arisen. Perhaps we are the only conscious minds that exist. This possibility is difficult to accept emotionally, but we cannot rule it out. The universe is vast, but that does not guarantee that life is common. If the origin of life requires extremely specific conditions, if the probability is low enough, then even in a universe with billions of galaxies, life might be rare. It might have happened only once. If we are alone, this has profound implications. It means that consciousness, intelligence, everything we value about ourselves and our civilization is unique. We would be the universe's only way of knowing itself, the only instance of matter organized in such a way that it can think and wonder and create. This would make our existence precious beyond measure. It would also make our survival critically important. If we destroy ourselves, If we fail to preserve the conditions that allow life to flourish, we would be extinguishing not just a species or a civilization, but the only consciousness in the entire cosmos. This is a heavy responsibility, but it is also, in a strange way, empowering. If we are alone, then the future is entirely in our hands. What happens next depends entirely on the choices we make. But let us consider the opposite possibility. Let us imagine that life is common, that the universe is full of living worlds. What would such a universe be like? In a universe where life is common, every star might host planets where evolution has created diverse ecosystems. Some of these worlds might have simple microbes. Others might have complex multicellular life, forests and oceans teeming with organisms we can barely imagine. A small fraction might have developed intelligence, and a tiny fraction of those might have created technological civilizations. But even a tiny fraction of billions of stars could mean thousands or even millions of civilizations in our galaxy alone. In such a universe, we would not be alone. We would be part of a vast community of living worlds, each one unique, each one following its own evolutionary path. This is a beautiful vision, full of possibility and wonder, but it raises the question we keep returning to. If this is the case, where is everyone? Why do we see no evidence of all this life? Perhaps the answer is simply that we have not looked long enough or carefully enough. Our search has been limited by technology and by resources. We have studied only a tiny fraction of the stars in our galaxy. We have examined only a handful of exoplanet atmospheres in detail. We have listened for radio signals from only a small patch of sky. As our technology improves and our search expands, we might eventually find what we are looking for. The first definitive evidence of life beyond Earth might be just around the corner, or it might be decades away, or longer. We cannot know without continuing to search. But there is another possibility that deserves careful thought. Perhaps life is common, but we are among the first. Perhaps the universe has only recently, in cosmic terms, become old enough and mature enough for life and intelligence to flourish. The early universe was very different from the universe today. In the first few 100 million years after the Big Bang, there were no planets at all. The first stars were made only of hydrogen and helium. They had no rocky planets, no water, no carbon-based chemistry. When these stars died, they scattered heavier elements through space. The next generation of stars incorporated these elements, and gradually, over billions of years, the universe became enriched with the ingredients needed for life. Our Sun is a relatively late generation star. It formed about 4.5 billion years ago, nearly 10 billion years after the Big Bang. Earlier generations of stars would not have had the right composition to form Earth-like planets or support carbon-based life. This means that for much of the universe's history, life as we know it might have been impossible. Only in the last few billion years have conditions been right, and we are here now, looking out at a universe that is just beginning to be capable of hosting complex life. If this is correct, then we might be among the first civilizations to arise. The galaxy might be young in terms of its ability to support life. We might be pioneers, exploring a universe that will eventually be full of life, but is currently mostly empty. This would be an exciting and hopeful interpretation. It would mean that we are not witnessing the aftermath of countless civilizations that came before us and vanished. We are witnessing the beginning, the dawn of life and intelligence in the cosmos, and it would mean that the future is open, full of possibility. We would not be late arrivals in a crowded universe. We would be early explorers in a universe that is just beginning to awaken. Of course, this is speculation. We do not know if it is correct, But it is a possibility worth considering, one that fits the observations we have made so far. As we think about all these possibilities, it is worth stepping back and considering what we have learned and what we still do not know. We have learned that planets are common, that the building blocks of life exist throughout the universe, that conditions suitable for life seem to be widespread. These discoveries have shifted our thinking. We once wondered if planets beyond our solar system even existed. Now we know they are everywhere. We have learned that life on Earth is resilient and adaptable, capable of surviving in extreme environments and recovering from catastrophic events. This suggests that life once started is robust. We have learned that the universe is vast beyond comprehension, with more stars than we can count and more time than we can easily grasp. This vastness provides countless opportunities for life to arise and evolve. But we have also learned that despite all of this, we have not yet found clear evidence of life beyond Earth. The universe appears quiet and empty, at least to our current methods of observation. This combination of abundance and silence is what makes the question so puzzling and so compelling. It seems like life should be everywhere, but we do not see it. And this gap between expectation and observation is what we are trying to understand. Perhaps the most important thing we have learned is how much we still do not know. We do not know how life begins. We do not fully understand how intelligence arises or how common it might be. We do not know what the long-term fate of technological civilizations tends to be. We do not know if interstellar travel is practical or if communication across light years is feasible. These are fundamental questions, and we are only beginning to find answers. Each new discovery raises new questions. Each answer leads to deeper mysteries. This is the nature of scientific exploration. We do not expect to find all the answers quickly or easily. We accept that understanding comes gradually, through patient observation and careful reasoning. The search for life beyond Earth is one of the great scientific endeavors of our time. It brings together astronomy, biology, chemistry, physics, and many other disciplines. It requires sophisticated technology and international cooperation. It challenges us to think deeply about fundamental questions. And regardless of what we ultimately find, the search itself is valuable. It expands our knowledge, develops new technologies, and inspires us to think beyond our everyday concerns. In the end, the question of whether we are alone is really a question about ourselves. It is about understanding our place in the cosmos, our origins, our future, our significance. It is about making sense of our existence in a universe that is often mysterious and overwhelming. We might be alone, the only consciousness in a vast and empty universe. Or we might be one among many, part of a cosmic community we have not yet made contact with. Or we might be somewhere in between, rare but not unique, scattered across the universe like islands in a vast ocean. Each possibility carries its own implications, its own emotional weight, its own challenges and opportunities. And we will not know which is true until we find evidence that settles the question. Until then, we live with uncertainty. We continue to search, to wonder, to hope. We look up at the night sky and ask questions that have no easy answers. We build telescopes and spacecraft and theories, trying to understand a universe that is larger and older and stranger than we can fully comprehend. And in this searching, in this wondering, we find part of what makes us human. We are the creatures who ask why. We are the part of the universe that wants to understand itself. We are conscious, curious, capable of contemplating our own existence and our place in the grand scheme of things. This is remarkable. This is precious. This is worth preserving and celebrating, whether we are alone or not. As we move forward into the future, we carry with us these questions and the drive to answer them. We do not know what we will find. We cannot predict what discoveries await us. But we continue to search because the questions matter, because understanding matters, because we cannot help ourselves. The universe is patient. It has existed for nearly 14 billion years. It will exist for billions more. We are here for just a brief moment in cosmic time, but in that moment, we have the privilege and the responsibility of consciousness. We can look at the stars and wonder. We can ask questions and seek answers. We can imagine possibilities and work to understand realities. We can search for life beyond Earth and contemplate what it would mean to find it or not find it. This is our gift and our burden. This is what makes us who we are. And so we continue, day by day, to search and to wonder. We build our instruments and conduct our observations. We develop our theories and test our predictions. We share our knowledge and work together across borders and generations. We do this because we believe that understanding is valuable for its own sake. We do this because we are curious and cannot help but wonder. We do this because we hope that someday we will find answers to the deepest questions we have ever asked. Are we alone? The answer, whatever it turns out to be, will teach us something profound about the universe and about ourselves. Until we find that answer, we live with the mystery, embrace the uncertainty, and keep searching. Because in the end, the search itself is part of what gives our existence meaning. The asking of deep questions, the pursuit of understanding, the exploration of the unknown, these are among the noblest activities our species engages in. We do not know what the future holds. We do not know what discoveries await us. We do not know if we will find life beyond Earth in our lifetimes, or if the answer will remain elusive for generations to come. But we know that the search is worth conducting. We know that the questions are worth asking, and we know that regardless of what we find, the journey itself has value. So we continue to look outward into space and forward into time. We wonder about the possibilities. We contemplate the implications. We work to understand our place in a universe that is vast and ancient and full of mystery. And in doing so, we honor the gift of consciousness, the miracle of existence, and the profound privilege of being able to ask these questions at all. The universe stretches out before us, vast and mostly unexplored. Countless stars shine in the darkness, each one a sun, many with planets of their own. Somewhere among all those worlds, there might be life. There might be intelligence. There might be others asking the same questions we are asking. Or we might be alone, the only ones wondering, the only ones searching, the only consciousness in all this immensity. We do not yet know which is true, but we will keep searching, keep wondering, keep hoping to find out. Because that is who we are, that is what we do, that is our nature and our destiny. The search continues, the questions remain, the future awaits. And we move forward into that future with curiosity, with hope, and with the determination to understand our place in this magnificent, mysterious, and awe-inspiring universe we call home.